Now, when we do famous Aquarius, usually I do one famous or infamous, depending on who I'm talking about, Aquarius. Now, this week we're going to do two Aquarius, two famous Aquarius. And there's a good reason for this. So I'm going to do the introduction and then I'm going to explain why today we have two famous Aquarius, Daisy and Violet Hilton. Okay? I am Queen Osset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to somebody else who might like it too. Also, please stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to read out two of my favorite comments from previous videos. If you would like to get a reading done, please email me. My email, my social media, my Patreon, my PayPal, my Amazon wish list, my Ask an Aquarius merchandise, everything is underneath this video. Okay, so our Aquarius, Daisy and Violet Hilton, were born on February the 5th of 1908, and they died in January of 1969. So why am I doing two? I'm doing two because Daisy and Violet are twins, okay? And not only are they twins, they were conjoined twins. Back in the day, they used to call them, when I was a girl, they called them Siamese twins because one of the famous set of conjoined twins, for some reason, I don't know why they called them Siamese, and it just stuck on. Nowadays, we use the politically correct term of conjoined twins. So these are two twins who come out of their mother stuck together. It could be back to back. It could be head to head. They have all different kinds of conjoined twins. Nowadays, most of the time, they're separated at birth. In most cases, they're able to separate them. It just depends on, do they have independent organs, independent limbs, independent, circulation structures. It's a whole bunch of medical stuff that I'm not qualified to explain to you. But basically, if they have independent systems, then they can split them and they can live apart. Well, Violet and Daisy were never split. Now, in this time period, according to what I saw, they could have successfully been separated. But during this time period, the doctor actually thought that they would die if he tried to, so he didn't try. So they were forever, attached. And I didn't see it, but according to what I read, they were attached at the back. So this part, their hip and their back area was attached to each other. So they were entertainers, because this is a really messed up story I got to tell you guys about, because basically this is what happened. They were born like this, and their mother, when she saw them, thought that this was a punishment from God. Isn't that something? Back in the day, when people had a child that had any kind of imperfection, we all have imperfections, but any kind of imperfection, they would say that the child was a monster, that the child was, a curse from God, that kind of thing, which is really awful. So this mother was having an affair with a man out of wedlock. So she felt as though this was her curse from God, these conjoined twins. And the twins were really beautiful too. I've seen a lot of pictures of them. Anyway, so after she gave birth to the twins, she abandoned them. The woman that was her midwife, she actually sold the twins for money to this midwife. And the woman that took them in didn't take them in because of the kindness of her heart. That's how they got their last name Hilton, because her name was Hilton. But she didn't take them in out of the kindness of her heart. No. She took them in because she wanted to make money off of the girls. So one of the most depraved and disgusting things I can possibly think of is exactly what she did. She put the girls basically on display. And people, anybody who wanted to, could pay her a few pennies. It says here she would charge people to inspect the girls. So they were little babies, newborns, and you could come in, pay her 25 cents or whatever it was, and you could see where they were conjoined and look under their dress and things like that. When the girls became women, they said one of their first memories was of, drunk men stumbling into the room, lifting up their dress to see where they were connected at. And I was just like, that's disgusting. Even, just the fact that she did that is disgusting. So then she took it a step further. She said, well, maybe I can put them in a freak show. During this time period, they had these things called freak shows. Any of you who watched American Horror Story Freak Show, that was based on real freak shows from that time period and before. So basically what happened in these freak shows, and they were only 3 years old when this started, people would pay to gawk at people who had different, I don't even want to call them imperfections, who were just different. They were just different in different ways. Like the one lady had a beard. One guy had a full body of tattoos. The girls were conjoined twins. Some people had missing fingers or extra fingers. So any kind of thing that was out of the norm could get you in one of these freak shows. And they took the girls, put them in the freak show at 3 years old, and had even more people paying to come and see them. Now, all of this started, this was in England. This was all in Europe. So what happened was Mary Hilton, who was the awful person that was doing this to these poor children, she decided that she was going to move the girls to the United States. She thought she could make more money in the United States. So she basically, and they said that the whole time she was abusing the girls. She was physically abusing them. She was emotionally abusing them. And she was making them practice and, to be in this freak show. The girls ended up doing like routines. They taught them singing and instruments and all kinds of stuff that they could entertain these crowds, just to make it that much more disgusting. So the girls were constantly being abused and, made to practice these routines and not allowed to just be little girls, So it's really awful. So then she decided that they could make more money. So at 8 years old, she brought them across the sea to the United States. Now, when they got to the United States, they really weren't welcome. The United States really didn't know, if this was going to be a problem. They were thinking that, they said they were medically unfit was the official version. But she made a big stink about it because it wasn't fair. And they did let them into the country. And this is where the girls stayed for the rest of their lives. Now, during this time, this woman that bought them died. So her daughter and husband took over taking care of them because the girls were money makers. The girls were making $5,000 a week. Can you imagine $5,000 a week? And this was in the 1900s. I can't imagine $5,000 a week now. You know what I mean? That's big money. And this is how much they were taking in, and they saw none of it. None of it. They were being kept in squalor and made to practice, over and over again while the caretakers were living in the lap of luxury. And by the time they got free, which we're about to see, they got their independence eventually. By the time they got their independence, all the money was gone. So it was really disgusting. So the guardians kept all the money. And something really interesting happened. During this time period, Harry Houdini, who is a person I've always been interested in, Harry Houdini just so happened to hear about the girls. These little Aquarius conjoined twins that were being, used and, disrespected. And by this time, the girls were old enough. They were grown by this time. So they were old enough for them to be emancipated. So Harry Houdini is the one that helped them escape. Harry Houdini was an escape artist. So I find it to be so cool that he helped them escape. I love that. Anyway, he helped them get a lawyer and he helped them escape. So the girls were able to be free. They were able to enjoy their a large part of their lives. They kept on performing. They both got married, which I find to be amazing, and they had sex lives. Now, this was a big scandal because the United States did not want to give them a marriage license because they thought it would be indecent, because obviously her sister is going to be in the room while they're having sex. So the one twin that went to get the marriage license, they kept on turning her down. She tried in different states, and according to the information, eventually they both were able to get married and had sex lives. They both ended up divorced. Their relationships, unfortunately, did not work out. I can kind of imagine that, dude. Can you imagine your sister is in the bed with you? They asked one of them, like, how do y'all have sex? And she said, while one of us is having sex, the other one reads a book and eats an apple. And I was sitting there like, I can't imagine being this way, eating an apple, reading a book, and my sister is behind me having sex with some guy. I was just like, I can't even imagine how that could possibly happen, you know? So anyway, that's what they said, and that's how they made it work. They did what they had to do, you know? So one of them, Daisy, actually gave birth to a baby. And because her relationship didn't work out, she gave the baby up for adoption. And legend has it that she never spoke of the baby again. So that had to have been painful. They also, while they were doing, they were doing these shows, they were continuing to do shows. They ended up doing 2 movies. One movie is about freak shows. And they did, those kind of things as they were getting older. Now, after a while, people got tired of their show. You could only do this show so long. So as they started to get older in their 30s and 40s, and they kept getting older, their show really wasn't pulling in people anymore. So what they decided to do was do a hot dog stand in Miami. And this pulled in people. A lot of people would come just to buy a hot dog, just to see the girls, But after the novelty wore off, the hot dog stand failed. So mind you, all the money that they made when they were young is gone. The money that they made after being emancipated, they pretty much blew through. They were partying. The girls were having a good time because they never had a chance to. So they were having a really good time. And so after the hot dog stand, that money was gone. They were basically, they were broke. So it was said that somebody gave them a job as clerks in a store. To go from being $5,000 a week entertainers to clerks in a convenience store must have been a big difference. And somebody gave them someplace to stay, and that's where they stayed. And they worked in the store, and they died at 60 years old. Apparently they had what was called the Hong Kong flu is what it was called. And the girls died. So, to me, this story is just a sad one, They spent all of their lives entertaining, and then to just die penniless and unceremoniously. They said that they didn't even have enough money to bury them. One of them died, and then the other one died a little bit later. And what killed me about the situation was they had to share a burial plot with one of their long-term friends. So all that money, all that fame, all that notoriety, through the 1920s, 1930s, all the movies, 2 movies, and then to die penniless in a grave with another person. I guess whoever died first, got put in, and then the other ones were put in too. But at least at the end of their lives, they found peace, because remember, at the beginning of their lives, they were severely abused. So somebody asked me when I was talking about this story, were these girls, do they act Aquarius? And they definitely do. They said the girls were beautiful and intelligent. Definitely the intelligence part is very Aquarius. They said the girls like to party. Very Aquarius. A lot of Aquarius like to party. You heard about Rick James. A lot of us do like to party and have a good time. They like to party, like to dance, they like to drink. They were all into that kind of stuff. They were into that. They had a great time. And the girls were creative, extremely creative, which is another very common thing that's said about Aquarius. They like sex and sexuality, very Aquarius. And they, even though they had relationships, they did spend the majority of their lives single. A lot of Aquarius spend the majority of our lives single, one way or another. So the girls, had a very interesting life. I just feel bad because of the way it ended. And I feel bad that they were taken advantage of for so long. And their mother did end up having more children. And according to the documentary, she died at like 25 years old. So they were never properly reunited with their mother. So, which I don't think was really a bad thing. I don't think the mother ever, if you see your babies as a curse, I don't think you're ever really going to embrace them properly. So, yeah, that's the story of the Hilton conjoined twins. So these famous Aquarius, they didn't do like all of our Aquarius have scandals. Their scandals was trying to get married. The United States government fought them in different states. Trying to get into the country, and the United States government fought them. So they had some little scandals going on. And then being conjoined twins, but they didn't really do anything really heinous or that kind of thing. So that's why I labeled them as famous versus infamous Aquarius. So their little scandals really weren't their fault. If they had been joined, if they had been born separate, we probably wouldn't even be learning about them. They probably just would have went on to live, normal lives. And if you want to know more about conjoined twins, there are a lot more videos on YouTube about different conjoined twins. Some of them fare better than others. I was reading about two male conjoined twins, and they had all these kids. I mean, but between the two of them, they had like 13 kids. It was amazing. They had a huge family. So some of these conjoined twins do better than others. All right, guys, now we're going to read two of my favorite comments. One comes from Lily. What's up, Lily? My girl. Lily said, a huge thing for me is helping the homeless. Yeah, and I wish I could do so much more. And you're right, Queen. Some of us feel others' pain. Yeah, a lot of Aquarius do feel others' pain. And Aquarius are better on a macro level. Okay, when it comes to feeling pain, we do better. Like she said, the homeless, that's a macro one. The elderly, that's a macro one. Adjudicated youth, children in foster care. Aquarius do good. Our empathy is best with large causes. I've noticed that it's better with large causes than one-on-one. So that's definitely a true statement. Summer Breeze. What's up, Summer Breeze? Summer Breeze said, I stay on weird and unusual. I love Victorian European time periods. Okay. Can't get enough movies, dress, dialect, laugh out loud. My family is just sick of it. And I make a list of things I like to do. Goals, dream lists. My youngest son is an Aquarius. Okay. And my older son and mother are both Virgos. I love my Virgos. Those damn Virgos. Laugh out loud. Thank you for discussing this, Queen. My Virgos, something? I have a lot of Virgos in my life. And one of my favorite Virgos I've known since college. And it's very funny with Aquarius and Virgo because we often butt heads. He and I butted heads on several different occasions, but what's weird about us? And I noticed this, as I was talking about Aquarius and Virgo. The weird thing about us is that I never lost respect for him. No matter how much he got on my nerves, no matter how pissed I was at him, I always respected him. It was like, he get on my nerves, but he's a good guy. And it was always like that. And now we're really close. We talk all the time. And sometimes I laugh and I remember all the fights that we had in college. It was just, we were both just so opinionated, you know? And I was right. And he didn't want to admit that. So therein lied the problem. All right, guys, it's time for us to get going. You come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.